What made you talk about this specific topic about aliens? I have to ask.
Well, it was really an analogy that a speaker that we had at the masjid, Sheikh Mahdi Lak, that he gave. And it was a time where the crazy UFO hearings were happening. So he said people are always interested in the concept of extraterrestrials. Are we alone out there and stuff? And to add to his idea is that people are always, they're only interested and their mind is only set on this concept of the extraterrestrial that's sort of just like us, but a different color skin, but uses technology and flies around and looks weird. That's the only thing they're interested in. But if they actually expand, can you guys stop? If they actually expand their mind and their horizons, they realize that we already have answers to these questions, a lot of answers to these questions about are we alone? First of all, of course, we have jinns, we have angels, but also, are we even from this earth? Like, why do we take that for granted? And Sheikh Mahdi continued to say that we know that we're created in the in paradise. Adam and Eve were created not in paradise, but in the heavens. So, and our home, we're constantly told, your real home is the afterlife, paradise. So this isn't our home. And we came down. Adam and Eve came down. We're brought down here. اهبطوا منها جميعا. جميعا is plural. Adam, Hawa, Iblis. All of you leave from this heavens and come down. And so the truth of the matter is that we're the extraterrestrials by that definition, right? Creatures, life that did not originate and does not belong on Earth. And that was the beginning of that that concept, which was, it's really his concept. I didn't make it up, but I'm sure other people have thought of it too. But to build on that, that's actually the answer, right? Like, but it's not acceptable to that to some minds, and some minds have, just stuck on a material, physical being that's in our dimension. Well, if there was other life forms, why don't we imagine life forms outside of our dimension? Angels and jinn. Angels and jinn are living here, but in a whole nother dimension. You can't see them. Okay. Now, should we start the topic here, or you want to have a back and forth first? Because it might be more exciting if we went back and forth, me and you.
Bismillah, whatever you prefer. I like seeing, mashallah, the nur on your face, but
mashallah, you too. And why don't you kick off with the thoughts that you had in mind, and we can go back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, subhanallah, I think we're all aliens. I think that's what it's going to come down to. We're all aliens. This world is just, we're living it like a traveler, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has said. We're here just to travel and just be aliens.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of silly how alien just means something that's foreign, right? The human being is foreign to this earth. And one of the signs that we're foreign to this earth is that we're the only animal that is not adaptable by itself. So take a naked human being, child, and throw that child in the rainforest. Take a 2-year-old, naked, with nothing, and put him in the rainforest, right? He'll be dead. A 5-year-old. But take a cat, right? A 2-year-old cat, put it in the rainforest. Take a 2-year-old cockroach, put him in the rainforest. All these creatures will live just fine because they are made for this world. They are created for this hayat dunya. Okay? They're created for this earth. We're not created for this earth. So just because we can live on this earth does not mean that we're native to it and that this is our planet. Okay? We need clothes. We need air conditioners. All right? We need all sorts of roofs to cover us from the sun. We need fire to cook our food. No other creature needs to cook food. Everyone else just eats it raw, right? We need so much. And even every other animal, it is how it is perfect. Okay? Us, if we don't have a blade and we don't fix up our hair, right, we look terrible. Okay? Every other animal, when you leave it out there in nature, it's a perfect physique. Human beings, if you let him go about his own instinct, his physique becomes a disaster. Okay. What about and animals that do lose their physique? Like they're all domesticated. Okay. Go out and look at any cat in the street. You'll never see a cat in the street that's overweight. Once you domesticate it and it lives with humans, it becomes overweight. How about dogs? There's no dog such thing as a depressed dog walking around in the streets, no matter what happens to the dog. Domesticated dog, if his owners are depressed in the house, the dog himself becomes depressed and has to go on antidepressants. Then that's the thing. Dog antidepressants is a thing. So the human being is the one creature that one of the signs that this is where we are in alien territory here, foreign territory, is that we're not adapted to it. Okay. We're not adapted to it. Secondly, the thought patterns of the human being. All right. Imagine that you had actually taken an alien creature and put it in the human, put him on Earth, let them populate and keep populating, and the first generation dies out. Second generation populates, produces a third generation. Second one dies out. Eventually, you can imagine this. If you did a thought experiment, they're going to eventually have a debate. Is going to rise up. Where do we come from? Okay. Because once you realize that we're different than all the natives, like the natives here, like what was it called? Avatar. Okay. The natives here are the cats and the dogs and the chickens and donkeys and lions and tigers and bears. Those are the natives. Eagles and fish, those are the natives. And we clearly see ourselves different than the natives. And that's what kicks off the question of who are we? Where are we? Where are we coming? Where are we going? We clearly have a greater technology. When they say aliens are going to come with greater technology, right? First of all, it's such an anthropomorphic idea to imagine that if there's life out of space, that life out of space will be using plastic and aluminum and gasoline and oil and flying in a jet the way we do. It's anthropomorphic, right? Why don't you imagine it with a greater technology? Well, we are the aliens with a greater technology, but it's not made of plastic and petrol and gas and aluminum and metal. What we have over animals is self-consciousness. Animals don't think about themselves, or at least we don't know about that they do. Because if they did, and if they had the tools that we are given, we got self-awareness, self-consciousness, we have curiosity, and we have an innate desire for a greater purpose. And that's what the Ruach is. The Ruach is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an amr. Every time you see the word Ruach in the Quran, is attached with the word amr. So the Ruach, one of its meanings is that it comes with a divine command to be a certain way. So cats and animals, cats and dogs and bears and mice, they never start saying, what are we doing as a species? They never say, we've been eating Swiss cheese for the last 3,000 years. When are we going to be better? You never see a cat. You could give the same cat the same food every single day. It's never going to say we just eat mice and we eat cat food and we eat chipmunks, right? Why don't we try to eat fish? Why don't we try to go and fish in the lake? Why don't we try to catch birds? Why don't we try to cook our food? But human beings, give them a set of ingredients. By the end of the week, they're bored with it. By the end of the month, they've mixed it with 10 other ingredients that you would never imagine. Why? Because Allah created us with this technology, called curiosity. Bring human beings, and after a few decades of that, they'll start asking, all right, we've done everything in this dunya. What is our purpose? So awareness, curiosity, sense of purpose, and that's why no two human centuries are ever the same. But cat centuries, they're all the same. Okay? The cat from 5,000 BC, or before the Common Era, and the cat today, they live the same exact life. The lion from 5,000 BC and the lion today lives the same exact life. They don't ask these questions. So when we say, oh, aliens with superior technology, that's us. The superior technology is not going to be in nuts and bolts and spaceships. Okay? The spiritual technology isn't something of another dimension, which is the Ruach, a higher dimension. So all of this imagination about aliens is really vapid, it's empty, and it's very superficial and self-contradictory. You notice these aliens, whenever they're imagined, They got a superior spaceship, but they all have one clothes, the V stripe on the gray outfit, and they're slimy. And in fact, so throw out all those imaginations. Okay. And this is a little bit of a crazy story here. Okay. There was, in fact, a person who ended up seeing some jinns. And the way that he described it is exactly the same drawing that came out of Area 51. And we know those guys in Area 51, when that first alien image came out of the big head, the very pointy chin, all gray with the black eyes like this, that is how one person had drawn a jinn that he saw. And those Area 51, they lived out there in New Mexico in the open desert. And we know where the shayateen inhabit the open deserts, right? Okay. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, when you go to the bathroom, you should recite, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubthi wal khaba'ith. There was no such thing as bathrooms in the time of the Prophet. What he meant by the bathroom was the open desert, because that's where shayateen live. The shayateen of the jinn, they live in the open deserts. So chances are that image probably comes from that. But this is a side point, and that's just like sort of fireside stories to tell. The real concept here is that we're people who are been sent down here, and there's a highly superior technology called the Ruach that will bring us into this world, give us life, and then immediately when we're called back, we're not going to go walking on a tarmac, get onto a spaceship and leave. That's inferior technology. The superior technology is that Ruach can be just plucked out of our soul, and we now enter a new realm called al-barzakh. Now, we haven't answered the question now, which I think is the more superficial question, is less important question of what is the implication theologically of believing in aliens? And that's what you want to, I'm assuming, wanted to ask next, right? Because that was the title. And I never even meant it when I first commented on aliens and wrote a blog on it to bring up that issue. But now that it's come up, the subject matter for this is called EXO Theology, which is the study of whether or not, well, how do we handle aliens given our religious beliefs? And the Christians have written a lot more about it than us. And the Arabs and the Muslims, or in Arabic literature, Islamic literature, in Urdu, in all these, in Persian, you don't see any of this discussion at all. Okay. So this may be some nazila in Aqidah. It's a new matter, maybe considered a new matter in Aqidah. And the answer overall so far, when you look at the literature of Muslims, which is very little, is that it's a tawaqquf. And just have no comment. And it's not necessarily a forbidden belief, but you definitely cannot affirm the existence of something that doesn't exist, because that would just be wahm. You have to have a wahm is an affirmation with no evidence. That's what a wahm is. You affirm something and you have absolutely no shred of evidence for it. That's a wahm. Okay. And so what we need, what we're looking at here is that is it possible? Does that belief that there is life outside the earth, that won't take a person out of Islam or make them an innovator. But here, let me tell you this. There's probably more likelihood that there is life under the crust of the earth. There's probably more likelihood of that, because where is Ya'juj and Ma'juj? Pretty much human beings have walked and examined most of the surface of the earth, right? But where is Ya'juj and Ma'juj? They're under the earth somewhere. And we know that there are these caves. There was a cave found like that in Asia. There are these caves where you can walk in and you could literally, it seems as if you're entering a whole new world, right? It's all underground. So if we're going to talk about aliens, forget aliens. There's probably more bizarre things at the bottom of the sea and deep in caves and under the crust of the earth, right? And you have all sorts of bizarre tales that we would probably categorize as myths right now, or just reports, testimonies and reports of bizarre creatures, right, in uninhabited areas. So what What else you got on the subject of aliens? Hey, Adi, could you hit the comments tab?
Yeah, I mean, subhanallah, I think that, I've heard that it's like, what does it matter, right? I mean, if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. It's kind of like, when you dive into the stories of the prophets and you start getting into, how tall Adam alayhi salam was, and you start diving really into the nitty gritty, and you want these points, it doesn't bring value. I think you touched on this, is the technology of the Ruach is something that I think is so amazing, because it was, when you talk about feeding the body, right? You're feeding the body with that which was created in this world. The ruh, you're feeding with the food of of Jannah. You're feeding it with Quran and Salah, and that which came from Jannah. And that's how you really feed that technology of the ruh. It's a very, it's a complicated thing to really wrap your head around, that your soul has this phone cover of a body, but you are the soul, right?
And let me tell you something else. All the talk of the scientific talk of aliens is not free from a motive. There's a motive to it, which is to render the human being as nothing really exceptional. Is the materialistic and atheist mindset, or that worldview, it's predicated upon the concept that the human being is not at the center of the creation or existence, and that the human being is not exceptional. Exactly the opposite of the biblical version or the religious version. So they really are pushing that, and they want to find out life outside Earth, because they do have this notion that we came randomly. If we came randomly, that randomness would probably have happened a billion light years away somewhere else in a different form. So you have to keep in mind that they're willing to entertain the concept of life on Earth. It's a way to reduce the centrality of the human being, right? And bring something that would really be a crushing blow to the sacred texts that are known on the earth today, like the Bible and the Quran, who would give no credence to these, or no mention to these concepts, right? And so you have to also look at it from that standpoint. And people will entertain these theories and will hold stake beliefs in those. But as soon as a person then says, oh, you believe in aliens you haven't seen yet because it's likely because of gravity that there would be life on other planets. Okay, well, I believe that there's likelihood too. And I'm pretty certain that there's a creator to all this universe. Then you get laughed at, right? So you have to understand too that the whole narrative is geared to fulfilling that motive too, right? And filling that motive that the human being is not something exceptional. But if you notice too that it's reductionist too, is that they're never imagining that there's something beyond the empirical dimension. And we oftentimes say the word materialists, but this is not necessarily the right word, and it's not the word the Quran uses. Everything is material. Even your ruh is made of something. The nafs, the ruh, is made of something. Okay, angels are made of something. Jinn are made of something, but they're not accessible to these tools. These tools right here cannot hear them. And these tools right here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, are extremely limited. That's why you must, human being, believe in the ghaib. You must believe in what you cannot see. He didn't say what is not material. He said what you cannot see. So these are material things. The jinn world, the angel world, all of these other heavens, and so many other things that Allah created, like radio waves, microwaves, they are materials, but they're so subtle that this tool cannot see it, and this tool cannot hear it, and this tool cannot touch it. Okay, but just because our tools are limited, to limit reality to the limitation of your tools is ridiculous, right? To limit, like, say, how much can a human being write? We'll say, well, look, you can only write with how much ink is in this pen. After that, no writing is possible. That's absurd, right? So likewise, this eye right here is not all seeing. To limit anything to this eye is so that's what the Quran is saying. Quran speaks about yu'minuna bil ghaib. They believe in what they can't see, which is to believe in the limitation of this tool. So oftentimes the world of looking for life out of space is limited to this dimension. And if you want to really be creative, you got to think of other dimensions. And a dimension being an entire abode that could really be right in front of your own eyes, but you can't see it.
SubhanAllah. Jazakallah khair for sharing. We have a few questions, but anything else that you wanted to add? I mean, there's so much more that I guess we can talk about in terms of like, just, about like jinn and things of that nature. But I mean, is there anything else you wanted to add before we dive into the Q&A?
No, let's dive into it.
Okay, Bismillah.
Yep.
So alhamdulillah, I mean, one thing that I find amazing is just like anytime you go through the comments, just people are just, it's amazing to see the amount of love and respect that we have for our teachers. So may Allah bless you, Dr. Shadee, for
you too,
dropping gems and just people are just saying how much of benefit that that you explain. Alhamdulillah. In terms of questions, so this is, let me see if I can. So this one right here is, I like the stories of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. We rarely speak about them. So I think in terms of. So can you talk a little bit about maybe like the people that maybe dive into, I'm not sure where the question is, but if you can talk a little bit about what does it mean to like explore, like where are Ya'juj and Ma'juj? Where are they? Like we're trying to find them. Where are they? And like people, they really like spend a lot of time like finding the Ark of Noah, or finding like, is this something that we should entertain, where we dissect and say, where is this? Is it the Great Wall of China? Is it this? Is it that?
Well, first of all, you could dive into that stuff, but you have to know where its place is, right? And the place is like just curiosity. Oops. Yeah. The place is just, it should be at the end of everything serious, right? So, because some people say, oh, you're discussing these things and there's bigger things in the world and bigger things in the deen. All right. So you also discuss things that are trivial too. Everyone discusses something that's trivial, but it's interesting, right? So as long as we know the place of this discussion and that it's really just the edges of what's critical, then we're good to go. We could discuss it as much as we want, as long as we know its place in the grand scheme of what Allah is asking us. Because Allah never asked us to know that, but this is the type of pastime and entertainment of the righteous of the past. Like they wouldn't go and talk basketball. They would talk about these things, right? Because that's like they need to take a break. So as long as we know that as a preface. And so Ya'juj and Ma'juj are of this world. They are human beings. And they are in this world. But they have been hidden from the surface of the earth by the Dhul Qarnayn. This is a belief, right? Like there's no empirical evidence for us to go on. It's a pure transmitted belief. Okay. And empirical evidence, what you can see here in Taste Touch, is not the only source of certainty. Transmission is also a source of certainty, right? And so it's transmitted to us that this is the case in the Quran itself. And so Ya'juj and Ma'juj must be then living somewhere under the crust of the earth. When they rise up, they will be so much stronger than the human beings on the earth that nobody, not even the Prophet Isa bin Maryam, will have power to stop them. Okay. By the command of Allah. And also physically. Here you have the generation of Prophet Isa bin Maryam has been through the worst war in human history. Okay. Which is what the Prophet called Al-Malham Al-Kubra. Imagine something worse than one of the world wars. Okay. Al-Malham Al-Kubra is an attack by Christians on Muslims. Okay. The Christians and Muslims will have a pact. That pact they will succeed in what they're doing. Then each will credit themselves and the Christians will betray the trust. And they will turn on the Muslims. And then slaughter the Muslims in a slaughter you cannot imagine. Who knows what that means? Right? But that actually does conform to the reality we know, because the so-called Christian nations, they're mainly atheists now, the European nations, have a weaponry that the North African and Muslims and the Arabs, and where the heartland of the Day of Judgment is, or sorry, the end of times is mentioned, Syria, Palestine, they have nothing, right? These people don't have anything. They have no military that's worth anything. So that concept is actually, we can start seeing the seeds of that from now, that a Christian nation will be so powerful as to destroy and have al-malham al-kubra, the great slaughter. It's not a two-way battle. Actually, it's not a good example of the world wars. World wars were both sides. This is a one-way battle where you will just be decimated. So imagine how strong those people are after who survived that. And then they go on to spread Islam throughout the world afterwards when Prophet Isa comes back. So they're fighting constantly nonstop, Prophet Isa bin Maryam. And so despite all of that, with all the strength that accrues from all that war, they still don't have the strength to fight Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So therefore, we can assume now that Ya'juj and Ma'juj are physically built differently because of where they live. And are they deprived of the sun or not? We don't know. But they do not live in the same above the earth like the way we do. There are people who are living somewhere that has been undetected right now. And the notion that we human beings have detected everything on the earth is false. It's just factually false. Scientists and human beings, geologists, what have you, have not been in every quarter of the earth, every inch of the earth. This is not a fact. And the idea that we imagine ourselves to have you ever like looked in a drawer for something? I looked, but wallahi, I can't find it. It's not there. Okay, that you think it's not there, right? You imagine yourself that you looked. You put your effort. That's what you should say. I put the best effort I have. But you can never prove a negative. So you cannot say, no, we looked at everything. You think you looked at everything. There's always something that you could have missed. And there's something that you know you missed and something you don't know you missed. Okay? You don't even know that you overlooked it. Okay? So that's definitely what must be the case when it comes to Ya'juj and Ma'juj. When they're going to come up, even Prophet Isa bin Maryam flees to the hill. He doesn't even have permission to fight them because of how differently they're built. And it says they go out and they eat from everything. They drink from everything. They kill everyone they see. So you want to see, one of these, what they call them, dystopian futures or end time futures. That's going to be the one. Okay. That's going to be the one. Forget zombie apocalypse and any of that, which is already happening, by the way. You go out to California, the amount of people who are drugged to the point of semi-brain damage. Drug use to the point of semi-brain damage. You actually have zombies. People walking in the middle of the broad daylight. Nobody's home. I mean, we have an inner city here. It's not really an inner city, but we have some of that here. And you see these people walking. Nobody's home. But he's still able to walk, reach in the garbage, get food, right? Walking real slow because he's drugged to the point of semi-brain damage. That's like the zombie apocalypse. That's what's happening. But that's Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So it's one of those things that we take on transmission. And you, on one hand, don't hope to see that. On the other hand, whoever does will have the honor of living with the Prophet Isa bin Maryam. So,
Allah Akbar. Allah. May Allah bless us all and protect us from all of the things in this world and in the next. In Ibn Kathir, he talks about before the jinn, there were, at least this is my understanding, that there was a bin. So Sister Wanda is asking, what are the bin? Why were they created?
I saw that, and there was, what I saw it as is al-hin. Okay. And yes, maybe she said, I mean, there may be a bin too, but what I saw about them is that they're just types of jinn. Okay. Different types of jinn. And Allah knows best. Yeah, Allah knows best about that. But the EXO Theology asked this very interesting question. If there are creatures out there that have the ability to make moral decisions, that's really the question, right? Then does the Sharia of the Prophet apply to them? Right? Do we give da'wah to them? Those are the types of questions that people ask. And the easy way out is the Maliki way. Well, when it happens, we'll discuss it. Right? That's the Maliki way of doing things. Okay. It was truly the way of Imam Malik. Why am I going to waste time? Right? And the Hanafis were the opposite. In fact, if you look in the Hanafi works deep enough, you'll probably have an answer to all this. Because they did believe in the value of iftiradat. Iftiradat is, let's imagine this happens. Let's imagine that happens. And why did they do that? Because they thought that there may be a time and a land that don't have scholars. And they could make an analogy of what we're imagining. They didn't always they imagined stuff that what happens if a man commits an act of bestiality with a horse or a mule or a donkey, or not a mule because mules can't give birth, but a donkey. And then they gave birth. That female donkey gave birth. And it produced a creature that was half male and half donkey. Okay. Some people will already think some people are half male, half donkey, but maybe metaphorically. But half male, half human, half donkey. Okay. So they started to say, okay, well, if it can speak, then it's mukallaf to get the dawah. But if its body is not like a human, then it cannot lead the prayer and it cannot get married. They basically gave you the fiqh of it all. Okay. This now since we're on crazy talk, we might as well continue. That Malik was brought a question: what happens when a jinn and a human marry? And Malik said, we heard of it out in the desert. We heard of it. So we don't say that it's not possible. And can they have kids? Yes, they can have kids. But he says, I forbid it. Not because it's zina. Muslim jinn and Muslim human got married by the Sharia. He said, I don't hold it zina, but I hold it forbidden, because then a woman can then say, get pregnant and say, where's your husband? Oh, he's unseen. Right? In that case, anyone could go committing all sorts of zina and saying, well, my husband's a jinn. And we had a wedding and everything. There were witnesses, but they're all unseen. Right? This is chaos, right? So Malik himself did not negate that he had heard of stories like this from out in the Bedouin lands where they're dealing with the jinn all the time. Okay. So those questions have come up. We just have to look in our literature. He forbade any marriage between the two.
We got to change the title of this Friday Gems to Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So
once the crazy talk starts, there's no going back.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Well, here's a little bit of craziness.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I must get, when you go down a YouTube rabbit hole and like these WhatsApp that these aunties share of like the Dajjal is here, or UFOs, flying saucers.
Mm-hmm.
We entertain this, like, oh, like this person's possessed by a jinn, or oh, the angel, this person is a guardian angel. Like, what's our reaction to?
Oh, that's a very important question that you bring up. First of all, the way to handle this, the first way to handle it is actually philosophically. The subject matter under this, the category that this is under epistemology, firstly, and it's the epistemology of testimony. Okay. Where is all this? It's under testimony, right? It's just testimony. When is testimony? Does testimony offer us certain knowledge? Number one, it offers us absolutely certain knowledge when it's mutawatir. When it's so many separate and different people that could not have possibly corroborated. Now, I'll tell you what happens, what used to be mutawatir, but we can't consider it so anymore. What's been corrupted? Near-death experience literature. Okay? Near-death experience literature and videos have gone so far and wide that anyone who has a near-death experience now, it's almost like we don't know what to believe or not, because you've been exposed to it already, right? You've already been exposed to that literature already. So where is it that whenever you hear these stories and there's all sorts of paranormal roundtables and stuff, I'll tell you what that's good for. It's good for a long drive, right? Or moving, packing, and you just need something to keep you going. It's stories. You can, when someone testifies to, I saw this and I saw that, it's his testimony. That's all it is. We cannot say that it's certain fact. And if you don't believe that this person is lying, you don't have to believe he's lying. You can't say he's lying unless you have other evidence that he's a liar. So we leave it hanging. We just leave the testimony hanging. Neither do we say the person's lying, unless they're saying that, unless they're contradicting a greater truth. Like, I saw Angel Jibreel and he worships Jesus. Well, we know that's not true, right? So whatever you're saying, we know that that's not true. So we have to look at it in order to be sane and not to be like lumped in with the crazies and the conspiracy theories, is to understand the epistemology of testimony. I like listening to this stuff. I listen to all of it. Near-death experiences, visions of life under the crust of the earth. It's entertainment to me, right? But where is it? In its testimony. That's it. Ahad narrations from strangers usually. So we would not give it much credence as a fact at all. But it's just a testimony. The fact is that someone testified to that. Okay? So that's really important, because people testify to seeing all sorts of weird things, and sometimes they testify to seeing good things and make you confused about your religion. Like there are Christian mystics out there who said that they saw the angels and all these amazing things happen to them. Okay, that's your testimony. That's it. It means very little to us. If a Muslim came and told us an amazing story about an angel, wonderful. That's your testimony. It doesn't tip the scale of fact and truth at all. Okay? Unless I choose to believe you because I know you to be trustworthy. But nonetheless, it's not going to enter into our aqidah. It's not going to enter into our way of living, our sharia. We're not going to make decisions based on. So it's important for people when they go into the world of crazies, okay, crazy stories, let's say, or unbelievable stories, to put it, to know where it belongs. Mere testimony, okay? And most of them, many of them can be believable, but that doesn't make it a fact. I believe something does not mean it's a fact. A fact needs to have a lot more testimony, okay, from many people that couldn't have come to an agreement. Or it has to have an empirical basis. I can see it right in front of me. Or it has to be a revealed basis from the Quran or from the Hadith, right? Or it has to have a rational basis. But any spiritual vision that anybody had, I may believe it, but it's not, I can't say it is a fact, bar none. Okay. So that's very important to parameters to put around this whole genre of literature.
The amount of articles that are going to pop up on my internet when I go on, like, person died and says what he saw in hellfire. I saw one the other day. It's like a pastor died, saw Rihanna in hellfire, came back to life to tell the tale about it, and it's like,
subhanallah.
We got to.
And by the way, let me tell you something else too, is that a person's otherworldly visions can be corrupted, just like your eye vision can be corrupted. So a person like me and you wearing glasses because this eye has gotten weak, so we don't see things right. We have to have correctors. Well, al-kufr, or some trauma also alters the vision of the heart. So yes, you had a vision. We don't know if your vision was 20/20 though. And that is the explanation that Sheikh Nur Hamim Keller gave of Christian mystics, right? Christian mystics cut themselves off from the world. They don't eat, okay? They pray all day and night, and they sit in nature. Eventually, you're going to have some kind of spiritual vision. But he says that spiritual vision, it doesn't make a difference in spiritual vision. It's corrupted. You take a guy and you stab him in the eye, and then you put all the lights on, right? Okay, wonderful. You saw a vision, but it's corrupted. What you describe is not the truth. If you merely just push your eyes like this, now I see two of you, right? If I push my eyes like this, now I see three cameras. So my seeing, that's why we say it's just testimony. It's not fact.
Allah. We got to get this on a shirt. I got to talk to Tariq about this. Now that we're on Crazy Talk, Dr. Shadee
That's what it is.
2023. We'll put this on a shirt. Let's do one more question, inshallah. This one's going back to the first reflection. If Allah wants to give Jannah to a slave, does he take away the dunya from them?
Not always, not at all. Sulaiman had the dunya and he had the akhirah. Sayyidina Ibrahim, وَآتَيْنَاهُ أَجْرَهُ فِي الدُّنْيا وَإِنَّهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. What is the ajr of Prophet Ibrahim? Is to see his whole family. And he ended up he married a third time, and he ended up having 4 boys, or 6 boys even, they said, and 4, 5, or 6 girls. Huge family. Prophet Ibrahim, many people think he just had Ismail and Ishaq. Those are the ones who are messengers and prophets. They were the prophets. But he had other boys, and he had other girls. The Amalekites are derived from Prophet Ibrahim. Ahl al-Rum is said to be from the descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? What is the other tribe? All those tribes that the Bani Israel were fighting in the time of Moses that lived in Philistine, they were from the descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam, but they had lost their message. The Hyksos people who took over Egypt in the time of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, right? When Prophet Yusuf went to Egypt, the pharaohs weren't there. The Hyksos had come down, kicked them out. They were Semitic. They were Abrahamic people. They were from the descendants of Ibrahim. So many nations were descendants of Ibrahim, not just the Bani Israel and the Arabs.
Jazakallah khair for sharing. Dr. Shadee, it's always a pleasure to learn from you, to listen to you. Isra says, always learning from Dr. Shadee. May Allah bless you and increase you in Allah khair and benefit us from knowledge. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. May Allah bless you. And honestly, you're an MVP, bro. MVP.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Pleasure to be on.
Allah Jazakallah khair.
جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. والعصر ان الانسان لفي خسر الا الذين امنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله.